All right, what's going on, everybody? Let's see here. We want to also go live on Instagram. What's going on, everybody? Sensei Lewis here tonight. Got a nice topic we want to talk about. Before we get started, let me go ahead and send out some notifications, and also let's also go live on Instagram also. Okay. So let's see. Let's turn it on. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. What's going on, everybody? So we are live on both Instagram and on YouTube. All right. Before we go, let me just put a quick. Like I said, I want to send out a tweet on Twitter, let everybody know we're live so we can get some people joining in. So just bear with us, all right? Everybody on Instagram and also on YouTube, just bear with us as we get this thing rolling here, okay? So just hold tight for a second. Just hold tight. Getting started in a moment. Let's see, something to hold this thing up. Great. All right, there we go. Okay. Let me see. Like I said, I just wanted to send out a tweet. Let everybody know we're live so they can join us live on Twitter. Okay. All right, there we go. So the tweet has been sent out. All right. Tweet has been sent out. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Video's rolling. All right, so like I said, we're live on both Instagram and on Twitter, so whichever platform you're watching on is fine. All right, so the topic we have tonight we're talking about is the combat mode mentality in self-defense. And also, I wanted to say everybody too that I know lately we've been doing a lot of videos. You know, we've been talking about more of the philosophies and the ideologies in your self-defense. But have no fear, we will be bringing you more actual, you know, techniques and stuff like that. So don't worry, I'm not turning the channel into now a philosophy of the martial arts channel. But lately, we just wanted to cover these topics. But we are going to get back to, offering the techniques. So have no fear, All right, we will be still showing you techniques and things like that. Also, too, before I get started, let me talk about some of our sponsorships for. Okay. I just wanted to let everybody know that if you do enjoy, which I know many of you do because you let me know, so those of you who enjoy, what we do here on our channel, what we've been doing for a number of years, and you would like to support Sensei Lewis and the Shinobi Science School of Self-Defense, we have a Patreon page here that you can sponsor and fund the work and the techniques that we do and the lessons that we offer you. So, if you appreciate it, you can go ahead and sponsor us there. Matter of fact, let me turn it around for the people on Instagram to see. Here's our Patreon page. And this page, if you're not familiar with Patreon allows content makers to make you know, to be sponsored by their fans, right? The people who appreciate the work that they do, the content that they offer. You can sponsor that particular content creator by becoming a patron, and this, as you see on the screen, allows them to sponsor. You know, you basically you make a pledge to sponsor the content creator on a monthly basis, and you know, you can, it starts off at whatever amount you have. Like mine, I have a minimum starting off at $5, and it goes up from there. And based upon the level that you sponsor, you know, based upon the level that you make your pledge, you have access to certain information, certain videos, certain articles, and things of that nature. Okay, so if you're interested in supporting the work that Sensei Lewis does here in the Shinobi Science School, you go to our Patreon page. For those of you who are on YouTube, all you have to do is go to the description of this video, and you will find the links. You'll find all the links there. Okay. Also, you could, if you're interested, we also have our online lessons, right? We have our online lessons here, as you see on the screen right now. This is for those of you who live too far away, because a lot of times we get a lot of emails and a lot of calls for people who are interested in training with us, but unfortunately they live too far. They're not, we're in Georgia, we're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and they are out of state, right? They're out of state, live too far to travel, live too far to, you know, to be able to train with us in person. So we came up with this option for you to train with us long distance, and we have the online, our online lessons right here, as you see on the screen. Again, for those of you who are on YouTube, the links to all these options that I'm showing you are available in the description of this video, so you can, you know, you can click on them and utilize those at any time. For those of you who are watching on Instagram, just go to my Instagram profile and you will see that I have posted I've posted these links, or I've made posts about these options that I'm showing you on my page. So just go to the profile page on Instagram for those watching on Instagram, and you can, you know, you can get access to these things that I'm showing you right now through there. Perfect timing always. Welcome to the live stream. Okay, and for those of you who are interested, like I said, this is for those of you who live too far to train with us in person. This allows you to train long distance, and we do offer ranking and belts for those who actually take this option. So yes, you will be able to receive certificates of belt ranking and everything like that. You will be tested, and you know, we tell you how to go about and what you need to do the testing for the long distance video online course, right? But the good thing about this is this allows you, as you see right there, you pay, you can either subscribe for $19.99 a month. You have unlimited access each month to all the videos that we have available, right? You can watch these videos practically anywhere, as it says right there, right? Number 2, you can practically watch these videos anywhere online, from your iPhone, Apple TV, Chromecast, etc., right? And number 3, there's no commitments, right? You can cancel anytime, right? So, you know, you're not locked in, you can cancel at any time, but it allows you access to the videos that we have, as you see here on some of the videos that we have here. And of course, we're going to be adding more videos, right? As more people join, we will add more videos. So, you know, we need to get it to a certain level, but once we get it there, we can add more videos, and you'll have more videos to study from and to train with. If you don't want to do the monthly subscription, you could always rent the videos singly. They're only $4.99, right? They're only $4.99, and you can rent them on a single basis right there online. You don't have to wait for a DVD to come. You can watch it right there. Once you pay the fee, the rental fee, you can watch it right there online. If you have the monthly subscription, you have access to all these videos, right? All the videos and more that as we add them on, and you can watch them all whenever you need to on a monthly basis. All right, so take advantage of that. Also, too, I'd like to introduce you to our web store, right? The Shinobi Science web store. For those of you who are students, or you're fans of our videos, or you're long distance students, you want to represent the school, we have a number of items, as you see here on the Shinobi Science store. Again, All of these links, for those who are Instagram, you can see these on our Instagram post, and for those who are on YouTube, you have access to these from the links in the description of this video. But like I said, if you want to represent the school, you know, we got the Shinobi Science. We got the t-shirts for the ladies, for the men. We got the hoodies. We got mugs for the ladies. If you you don't want to represent, you're not maybe a student of our school, but you want to represent the art of ninjutsu, we have the mugs that don't have the school on there, but they do represent the art of ninjutsu and Shinobi Science, right? You see that? So there you go right there. So most of the stuff represents the school, but like I said, we did add something where for those who, you know, you're not part of the school, but you want to represent ninjutsu, you got that there. You got pillows, so take advantage of that as well. Okay. All right. So let's get into the lesson now that today's lesson, which is, as I said, about the combat mode mentality, right? What's going on, young Carlo Gambino, and what's that? The Monkey King has also joined. So I appreciate you guys checking in on there. Got some students, got some fans watching. That's great. All right. So like I said, you know, you can take advantage of some of those links that I showed you in the description of this video. But let's get into the topic. The topic we're talking about is having that combat mode mentality, right? Or warrior mentality in your training. And this is something that I've learned and observed over the years as a martial artist, whether it be my own experience or watching other martial artists, and whether they had that mentality or they didn't. And that's what either caused their success in their self-defense or their failure in their self-defense. All right. So I have a list here, right, that I'm going to share with you. These are some of the things that will help you in your self-defense mentality. And what I'm going to do also, for those of you who are who want to support us on the Patreon page, if you do a minimum of a $5 Patreon page pledge, I'm going to add this. I'm going to scan this in, and you'll have access to this list on the Patreon page. All right. For those of you who are students with me, I have the handout. I'll give this to you when I see you in the next class. But for those of you who are, our long distance students, I'm going to add this to the Patreon page. So if you want to have this, be able to take the notes down, you'll be able to get this if you make a minimum of $5 pledge on our Patreon page. All right. So, but before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the combat mode mentality, or the warrior mentality, right? Beyond your skills, right? Beyond your skills in your training in the martial arts. You can have all the skills and everything, but if your mind, if you don't have the right mentality, you're going to fail. I'm sorry to tell you that. That's the reality, right? If you don't have the right state of mind in your self-defense, or if you get attacked, right, or if you get into a fight, or whether you step in the ring or whatever, you're going to fail, right? Just like with the military. Think about the military, for example, right? The military, they have this thing called morale, right? You heard about morale, the morale of the military, right? Morale is important because if the troops don't have the right mind state, if they're not happy, or if they're upset, or if they're dissatisfied with the general or whoever is in charge, or the conditions or whatever, that army is going to lose, right? You're going to lose the war. Your country, your unit, your battalion, whatever, y'all are going to lose if you guys don't have the right, if your morale is not up, right? If your morale is low for whatever reason, you're going to lose. The reverse of that is that if everybody's morale is high and up, and you believe in the leader, right? You believe that the general is leading you right. You believe he's a good leader. You're satisfied with the conditions of your unit and your army, and you guys have enough food and everything like that. And not only that, but you also have in mind the cause, right? What's going on, Ninja Boy? One of my students back from Virginia. What's going on, bro? How you been? Right? And he's in the military, so he can tell you, right? He's in the military, so he can tell you, right? That if you guys don't have the right morale, man, it's over for y'all, right? So morale has to be up. The morale of the unit, the battalion, the squad, whatever you want to call it, it has to be up. If not, we're going to lose the war. You see? Not only that, but you also have to, Richness, what's going on? Richness 22. Not only that, but you also have to believe in your cause, right? If you are going into battle and you don't really believe in the cause, that's another cause for failure. Now, take that same concept and put it on yourself as an individual, right? Same concept as an individual, that you as an individual, if you're being attacked, or you're about to get into a fight, or you're about to step into the ring in a competition, you have to have a high morale of yourself. You have to believe in yourself, right? You have to believe in your cause. You have to believe that what you're doing is the right thing. Whether, like I said, whether you're stepping into the ring in a competition, or you're about to get into a fight, or you got attacked, you have to have the right frame of mind. You have to believe that your cause is just. That when you engage this attacker or this opponent or whoever you have a problem with about the fight, you have to believe that you're in the right. If you don't believe that you're in the right, if you don't have the high morale within yourself, if your mentality is not right, then I've seen it. It won't work for you, right? I've seen it. So here's what I've seen from experiences, either from myself or things that I've seen. Back in the days, right, when the UFC first started, right? But you know, the UFC, when the UFC first started back in the early 90s, right? At that time, I forgot, I don't know what belt was I at the time. I might have been, I don't know. I might have been a blue belt or a purple belt at the time that the UFC started. It was like in the early, it was like what? That was like what, 93? Somewhere around that time, right? But that's when they first started. So everybody in the martial art world was, yeah, exactly, Ninja Boy, exactly. Morale is a huge part. If I can't trust my leadership, then exactly. True indeed, right? And so that goes with yourself. Since when you are out on the street, then you are your own military, right? You're your own unit. And if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your skill, if you lack confidence, then it's over for you as an individual. So that same thing applies to you as an individual. But what was it? Back to what I was saying is that, yeah. What was I saying? That, yeah, so like I said, so when the UFC first started, right? When the UFC first started, you know, everybody was excited about it. Everybody was excited about the UFC because it was bringing all the different martial arts, and everybody was getting able to see, you know, whatever martial art you were in. How did it fare in a fight, in a fight like this? Jiu-jitsu guy versus a sumo wrestler, versus a kempo fighter, versus a karate guy, versus they were even some stage some ninjutsu guys got involved in it. Some wrestlers, Greco-Roman wrestlers were involved. Shoot fighters were involved. All different type of fighters got involved. And at that time, when the people when UFC started, at that time, everybody was pretty much in their style, right? Nobody was trying to cross over. If a boxer got in the ring, that's all he did. He just did boxing, right? He didn't learn ground fighting. He wasn't trying to kick. He just went in as a raw boxer. If a wrestler got in, the wrestler went in as a wrestler. A Greco-Roman wrestler, he went in as a wrestler. He wasn't trying to strike and engage and kick and all. He just went in as a pure wrestler. If a kung fu guy was there, he was straight kung fu, straight Wing Chun, straight ninjutsu, straight whatever it was. If you are a grappler, that's it, straight grappler, right? And so that's when it was pure in those days, when everybody it was just your style versus another style. And if you didn't know how to fight on the ground, you was in trouble. If you didn't have your kicks or whatever, and you dealing with somebody who's a kicker, and you just learning how to fight with your hands, then you had to adjust and deal with it, right? So one of the fights that I remembered that started to in my early years of training, that made me realize that your mentality that it mattered, there was one fight. I think the guy was a karate guy. I don't remember his name, right? I don't remember the fighters, but it was a karate guy. He was a black belt, right? He was a black belt. I don't know what degree of black belt he was, but he was a black belt. And who did he fight? I think he fought, I can't remember. Maybe it was a Muay Thai guy. Maybe it was a Muay Thai fighter, right? But nonetheless, they were both professionals, right? They were both professionals. They were both, expert level in their particular art. So when the karate guy got in, and this is nothing against karate. Karate is definitely a deadly art, no doubt about it. But like I said, this individual was lacking in his mentality. You could see it too. You could see when he stepped in the ring that you could see that he wasn't there. He didn't have that look of destruction on his face. He looked timid. He looked fearful, right? So you could tell he may not do too good, right? No matter what his style of art is or his level, you can see he's not going to do too good, right? So so as the fight goes on, you know, the Muay Thai guy is kicking him and beating him up, whatever, and then he hurt him. He kicked him in the face. His face is, you know, nose is bleeding bloody, and he's on the ground. So he's on the ground, and he's like, you know, he's doing this. You know what I mean? So he's on the floor, and he's on the floor hurt and everything, and you know, he just didn't have it. He lost the fight. You know what I'm saying? After once he got hurt and kicked in the face, and he's on the ground, that was it. You know what I'm saying? He had no comeback. He didn't really try to fight. He was just on the floor, you know, trying to fend off the guy's kicks or whatever, and of course he lost the fight. And so that's what I began to realize, that not only, you know, of course your skill is a part of it, but that's when I began to see that your mentality mattered as well, right? Your mentality mattered as well, right? And then there were things on the opposite side of it, right? Then there were things on the opposite side where there were guys who, you know, they had that mentality, they had that warrior spirit, that even though they were hurt, they kept fighting, right? They were hurt, but you could tell they're determined to pull this out. Some way, somehow, they're determined to pull this out, right? I've seen jiu-jitsu tournaments where dude had his arm, he got the arm bar on him, and he didn't submit, he didn't tap out, right? He had the arm bar locked on him. He did not tap out, and the guy popped his arm. He popped it. The guy popped his elbow, but the guy didn't give up. He didn't tap out, and matter of fact, he's still fighting with his arm just hanging. His arm was just hanging, and he still kept fighting. You know, and he made it to the end. I think the time ran out or something like that. But that's the warrior spirit. His mind said, "I'm not giving up. I'm not going to be defeated." And he hung in there even though he was injured, and he kept going. And so that's when I began to learn the importance of not only your skill, but your mentality. I've also seen it on the street, in street fights, right? On street fights where, you know, you have the tough dudes, and, you know, that they have a certain persona about themselves, and people fear that. Even though they haven't gotten to the fight with the person, but people fear just the persona of the person, right? The person appears to be, you know, a real rough and tough street dude. You're like, oh, you know, people are like, you don't mess with him. But they don't even know if he can fight or not. But just the way he comes off is like, you could tell that whether he can fight or not, he's giving off that energy from his mentality that he is, you know, he's about whatever he's talking about. You see what I'm saying? And then you see, again, the opposite of that as well. That you see people who are timid and fearful, and you're like, man, you're already done. You're already done because you're fearful. It shows on your face. It shows in your body language that you're fearful, you're scared, and that's it. You're already done. You're already gonna lose. You see? Like the saying goes, right? There's a saying, as a man thinks or thinketh, so is he. That's true. There's truth to that, right? There definitely is truth to that. That as you think, that's how you're gonna be. If you think fearful and timid, then that's exactly what you are. No matter what skill you've acquired, no matter what level of black belt you've acquired, whatever you think, that's how you're going to be. So if you're a black belt, but you're scared to walk the streets and you're fearful of whoever approaches, then that's going to be your downfall. That's going to be your downfall, you see? And the reverse is that if you think, I'm getting through this, whoever steps to me, I'm destroying you, I'm going through you, then that will be your mentality. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to win, but you will fare better, right? You will fare better if you have that mentality. And many times, you will come out on top from that, you know? So I've had experience, like I've had experiences for myself. Like, and this was before I really was, you know, I was still young at the time, but this was before I even, you know, was at any, you know, mentionable martial arts skill. This was, you know, we used to like WWF wrestling. Remember back in the days when Hulk Hogan and all of that. Those of you who are old enough to remember, right? So, you know, me and my friends on my where I grew up at, we used to wrestle. We made our own little pretend wrestling federation, right? So, you know, and we had the championship and the belt and all that stuff like that. So I won. I had the championship, right? I won the championship, right? So there was one of our so you know, over the time we got a new guy who moved on the block, became good friends with us, and you know, he was in the wrestling federation, but he was kind of a big dude, right? He was kind of a big dude. So you know, he wanted to challenge me. This is gonna be a funny story. He wanted to challenge me for the belt, right? Because I had, you know, won out of all my friends, and even, and matter of fact, let me say that too. Even me winning, defeating all my friends, right, had to do with my mentality, right? My mentality was, you know, that I'm gonna win. So we were all friends and we were wrestling and everything like that, right? And I happened to be the champion. No bragging, no boasting, but you know, when I think back, it had to do with the mentality that I'm trying. That was my mentality. Even though it was just make believe, we pretended. We really wrestled with each other, right? So you really had to win. You had to really pin the person and all the stuff like that, right? So I remember his name too. His name was Jeff. If he's out there, if you ever Jeff Davis was his name, right? Jeffrey Davis, cool guy. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen him in years. But like I said, he was a big kind of husky dude, bigger than rest of us on the block, all right? So he kept challenging me for the belt. And I ain't gonna lie, I was trying to avoid it, right? Because he was a big dude. I was trying to avoid it. But of course, you know, my ego and the belt was on the line. How could I still be the champ, right? And I haven't challenged this contender. So, you know, I tried to, you know, delay it by saying, look, well, you know, you just got in, you got to work your way up the line, and then you get to go against me. So eventually he did that. He went up the line, and now he was the next contender. So I was like, oh damn, I got to face this dude. So, but here's what I did though. So to show how your mentality is important, that finally I was like, okay, well look, I got to face this, man. If I'm going to be the champ, if I'm going to maintain the championship, I got to face him, right? So I said, all right, I'm gonna do it. So I started training, right? And I mean, we used to train anyway. You know, we would lift weights and do whatever exercise we could, whatever. We took, even though it was make believe and pretend, like we really like took it serious. Like we would work out and exercise and lift weights and all that stuff like that for our matches. So when it was time for my match, I really worked it out. Like I really lift weights and worked it out, and I was ready. I was like, I mean, you know, there was a part of me that was still, you know, had that reservation, but the other part of me was like, I gotta face it. I gotta do this, right? So, you know, I worked out. I lift weights maybe like for about a week before my match. So finally, he was really talking all this mess, man. You know, you ducking me, man. You know, they used to say that too back in the days on the W. He was using like WWF, World Wrestling Federation phrases, like, you know, you ducking me. You a paper champ. You know, they used to say that, right, to Hulk Hogan. You're the paper champ and stuff like that. So I was like, man, he really, you know, he's really getting at me. So finally, I was tired of it. I was like, fine, let's do this, right? So finally, we wrestled. He, like I said, he was bigger than me and everything. But again, I had that warrior mentality, that warrior spirit that I'm gonna keep my belt. I'm gonna defeat him some way or another. So we wrestling, big dude, whatever. And long story short, you know, we wrestling. I got out of some hold that he did, and I quickly got around on his back. And I tell you no lie, I don't know. Again, you guys have to be old enough to remember this, but there was this wrestler called the Iron Sheik, right? The Iron Sheik. He had this move called the camel clutch, right? If you need to know, look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube. Look up the Iron Sheik and look up his move called the camel clutch, right? So I got out of the move somehow, got around on dude's back and caught him in the camel clutch. The camel clutch is when you sit up, when you get behind a guy like in a chokehold position, right? You lock both his arms. You lock both his arms on the side of your legs, and you grab his chin from the back. So you sitting on his back. His back is arched really bad. His arms are stuck like this on the side of your legs. Somehow I got him in that move, man, and I caught him, and I'm pulling back, and he submitted. I got a submission hold. He gave up, man. But that showed me that a lot of it is your spirit, man. If you have that warrior spirit, that warrior mentality, you could pull off what seems to be the impossible. Like I said, he was bigger than me and everything, and I pulled it off. And funny thing about it, is I didn't even know one of my neighbors. It was a grown man, one of my neighbors. We actually had the match in his front yard, because that's how it was. Like, we didn't even get a chance to like really set it up like we usually do. He just kept pushing at me. You're a paper champ. You ducking me. You're running. So I was like, man, forget it. Let's do it right now. So we started having the match on my neighbor's front yard, and I didn't know he was watching. So one day after the match, he said that he saw the match, and he was like, yo, I saw the match, young man. You know, that you got a lot of spirit in you. You know what I mean? So from that point on, those were lessons that I learned, that, and like I said, in observing other people in matches and fights or whatever, you know, that it shows that it's a lot of it is your mentality, man. That saying is true. As a man thinketh, so is he. Right? That saying is very true. As you think, that is how you will be. If you think you're a coward and you're scared and timid, then that's what's going to happen. If you think strong and I'm going through opponents, that's what it is. Even when I had to take my black belt, when it was time for me to take my black belt test, that's the mentality I had. Now, I wasn't thinking that I wasn't going to be, like, I knew I wasn't going to try to hurt my fellow students, when we do our tests. But I was like, I'm getting this black belt. I'm going through whoever's in my way. I'm passing this test. I'm getting that black belt. I'm going through whoever's in my way. And, that's what it was. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, like I said, I wasn't trying to hurt my fellow students or whatever, but my fellow classmates. But that's the mentality I had. And so, to put that for you guys, that's the mentality you have to have in your training and when you're out and about. Whether you train for just personal self-defense, or you train to step in the ring or in a competition or whatever it may be, you have to have the combat mode warrior mentality. And of course it has to kick in whenever danger is presenting itself. It has to kick in, right? It has to kick in, and you have to think, I'm destroying this person. If somebody's trying to attack you to rob you or just attack you on the street and you know what's going on, you have to kick in and think, I'm destroying this person. Fear has to be thrown out. No fear, right? No fear, no timidness, no intimidation. You're going through whoever steps in your way. That's how you have to think. You know what I'm saying? So let's go through this list. And the list I was talking about and some of the things. So this is what I call self-defense fighting reminders. And number one is exactly what I'm talking about here. And this is a list that I made up from my years of teaching and my experiences, right? So the first thing is that, like we're talking about, the combat mode mentality. Excuse me, oops. And that is that you have to, number one, first thing that's important is believe in your art and yourself. That's the first thing. You have to believe in your art, whatever you're doing, whether it's karate, taekwondo, ninjutsu, jujitsu, kung fu, whatever art you are doing, you have to believe in that art and believe in yourself. That's very important, because if you don't believe in the art that you're taking, that's another cause for failure. You understand? If you do not believe in the art that you're practicing and learning, that is another cause for failure. And I would recommend it, if you're in an art that you don't think is going to work, then you should change that art that you're doing. So that's very important, that you have to believe in the art that you are training in, and also believe in yourself. Believe in your skill in that art. That's very, very important. And an example of that are the Gracies, right? The Gracie family and the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu became very popular. They actually became very popular after the UFC, because all of those elements were there. And that's another thing that I saw, that I learned and picked up from it as well, is watching the Gracies, right? Or particularly Hoist, who was the one who was in the UFC, who was beating everybody, right? And he wasn't a big guy. He fought people bigger than him and who were kickers and punchers and all that stuff like that. But he would always defeat them with his jiu-jitsu. So he believed in his art. He believed in his art, right? And like I said, at that time, everybody's art was pure. Nobody was mixing. Nobody was doing mixed martial arts, right? If you were a grappler, that's all you did. And he was basically mostly a grappler. He wasn't a striker. Now later on, yeah, they did start to incorporate some striking into his combat repertoire. But at the early stage, he was strictly jiu-jitsu. He would go against Muay Thai fighters and karate guys and whatever, and he would stick to his art. He would stick to his jiu-jitsu, his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He would stick to it, right? And he stuck to it, and he would defeat a lot of his opponents. So I began to see from there that was an important thing, you could see he believed in his art, right? He believed in the art that he was doing. He believed in his art, and he believed in himself, and it showed. He defeated people of all these different arts, and it showed that, you know, that he believed in it. And so I took that lesson from him, is that, well, in the art that I'm doing, I believe in it. I believe in it. I believe in myself. So that's a strong advice that I give to you guys. No matter what art you're doing, whether you're a student of mine or you take some other art, you have to believe in your art. Don't let the talk of, oh, that's, you know, because we got the naysayers, oh, that's not going to work, or that karate stuff don't work, that martial arts stuff doesn't work, whatever, man, whatever. As long as you believe in it and believe in yourself, you'll see that you will be able to pull off things that people would say they don't work. But they do work if you believe in it and you believe in yourself. So that's very important in having that combat mode mentality. The second thing is to stick to your style and what you know. Once again, looking at Royce Gracie from the early UFCs, that's another thing that he did. He stuck to what he knew, he stuck to his style and what he knew. That was a lesson that I learned also, right? That, you know, I've been to other places, you know, or I've worked out with other people, and you know, I start trying to do what their art is, and you wind up seeing that because that's not your art, or you trying to do something that you haven't practiced in, that you see that it's not effective for you because that's not what you know, right? I'm working with a boxer, and I'm trying to box now. I'm not doing my kicks, my hand strikes, my grappling, my joint locks, you know what I'm saying, my pressure points or whatever, because I'm trying to box, but I'm not a boxer. So what do I find out? That, wow, I'm not doing as good as I could be because I'm doing what this guy, I fell into his game, right? His game is boxing, so I'm trying to roll with him as a boxer, but I'm not a boxer. So then I realized, you know what, I pull back and do what I know, and now it's working for me, right? Because now, instead of me trying to box, I'm using what I know. I'm using my kicks. I'm locking him up. I'm grabbing him and locking him up, locking up his joints, and he's trying to box. Now he's at a disadvantage because he can't come into my realm. See, when I tried to go into his realm as a boxer, he had the upper hand. So I had to pull back and say, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm not a boxer. Let me do what I know. I'm using my kicks and my hand strikes and my grabs and my joint lock. Now he's starting to find himself at a disadvantage. So I learned that you got to stick to your style and what you know. This is part of the combat mode mentality, right? The third thing is follow the concepts. For those of you who are my students, we have these concepts that I've talked to you about, right? Which is, you know, your reaction to an attack, your response to an attack, the shocking and the neutralization and the takedown and the finisher, right? Follow that concept. Always have that concept in mind. Never stray from it. You don't ever want to go off course. That's always your goal. Your goal is always, somebody attacks you, you react to the attack by blocking or whatever, evasion, taisabaki, ghost technique. Then you got to shock them, distractions, hit them with something to, you know, stun them, shock them. Then you got to take them down, neutralize, and the finisher, whether it's a submission, a break, a pressure point, or finishing strikes. Always have that goal in mind, right? Always have that goal. Always keep that in focus. Never lose sight of the concept in your mind, right? Never lose that concept, because that'll put you off the track. So no matter what happens, always remember, you're not trying to get into a boxing match. You're not trying to get into a fight with the person. You want to keep these in mind. Neutralize the threat. Neutralize the threat. You take them down and you finish. That's always your goal. Keep those goals in mind, right? The fourth thing is don't get into a power struggle, right? We talked about that. Don't get into a power struggle. Meaning, if somebody grabs you, don't start, hey, let go of me, man, get off, you know, no, right? Of course, as soon as they grab, Do what you know what to do. If they grab your jacket, don't start, hey man, get off me, man, let go. Hey, you know, you're wasting energy, you're wasting time. If they grab, pop, you pop them, right? They grab your coat. If I have my hands free, I'm going to the eyes, right? Going to the face, distractions, whatever. I'm kicking, I'm using my legs, I'm elbowing. Whatever you can use, don't get into the power struggle. Strike with whatever's free. If your hands are free, strike with your hands, your legs, your feet, whatever. Okay? The fifth thing is always have a strategy while using technique. Don't just punch and kick without a purpose. Don't just be throwing random punches, random kicks and all that stuff like that. Have strategy and technique, right? So again, this is part of the combat mode mentality. So if you get into a situation, you make sure you're striking targets. You want the jaw, the nose, the eyes, ears, throats, groin, kidneys, ribs, you know, but don't just randomly be throwing wild punches like that. No, always have strategy when using your technique, and do not punch and kick without a purpose. You have to be aiming at targets, because that's how you're going to down and neutralize your opponent. Okay, now this is all mental. That's what I'm saying. This is all mental, right? This is all from the mind. Strategy comes from the mind. Having purpose for your strikes is all in your combat mode mentality. Okay. Number 6, you want to try to avoid being the aggressor unless necessary. There are some situations where you can make the offensive move, where, like, for example, if it's clear to you that somebody's getting ready to attack you, right? If it's clear that somebody is getting ready to attack you, you can make the first move, right? Somebody says, man, I'm about to hurt you. I'm about to kill you. Even if they haven't thrown the first strike, they've already made their intention known. And if that's clear and you see that it's an imminent danger, you can go ahead and make the first move and get the jump on them, because they already made it clear they were going to try to hurt you, right? But in most cases, you want to try to avoid being the aggressor, as I said, unless necessary. Let the attacker move, and then you respond to their attack, and then you take advantage of any mistake that they make. Because a lot of times, if you're the one making an aggressive move, they might look at you and move and then catch you out there. So unless it's necessary to move first, don't do so. Let them make the first move, and then you respond and you take advantage of any mistakes that are made. All right. Number 7 is that when shocking, strike at targets that affect the attacker seriously. So when I need to shock you, right, I could, you know, pop at your eye, right, crack at the nose, right, pop the ears, right, hit you in your throat, something that's going to stun you and shock you, or real, you know, palm hot fire smack to the face. You smack fire out of them. Something that's really going to stun them and shock them and allow you to get the opening that you need, right? That was number 7. Number 8 is that if the opponent has a weapon, remember to control or disarm the weapon first, and then you continue what we talked about in step 3, which was to follow the concept: the block, evade, shock, takedown, finishing strike, or submit the opponent. All right, so that's number 8. If the opponent has a weapon, you got to control the weapon, that the arm with the weapon or the weapon, or disarm it first, and then you continue. Never just block somebody with a weapon and then keep hitting them when the weapon is still free and available. Always make sure you control it or disarm it. Okay? And number 9 is, if you're taken to the ground, don't panic, right? If you get taken to the ground, don't panic. Again, this is all about the combat mode mentality. So if somebody takes you to the ground, hopefully you've been, you know, your art that you've been training in has some ground techniques. Like we, in our Shinobi science, we do stand up weapons. We learn how to fight on the ground. We learn how to grapple. It's a well-rounded system, right? And I always tell people, we were doing this before the UFC, right? Before the UFC, and people started realizing that they had to start to what they call mix their martial arts. What we were doing with our ninjutsu, it was already mixed. I was like, wow, we were already mixed. We were already, Master Cream was already teaching us how to fight standing up, how to fight on the ground, how to fight when people, you know, grapple you and grab you and all these things like that. We were already learning that. But if your art doesn't have any, make sure you try to learn how to be well-rounded. You want to be a well-rounded defender of yourself. right? So make sure that if your art that you practice does not have ground fighting, that you try to get some ground fighting training or learn how to deal with grappling and all these things like that. You want to be well-rounded, and vice versa. If you're into wrestling and that's all you know, you might want to get some striking skill, right? Learn how to strike, learn how to box and punch and things like that, and kick, so you can be a well-rounded fighter. So my point here is, if you're taken to the ground, have the combat mode mentality. Don't panic, right? Do not panic because you get taken to the ground. A lot of times, you know, many people feel that if you get knocked down to the ground, that it feels like you're at a disadvantage, right? But no, you got to get that out of your mind. There's no panicking if I get taken down to the ground. We're not going to panic. It's not the end of the fight. It doesn't mean that it's over for you. You can still fight and survive from that position. Okay, so remember, if you get taken to the ground, don't panic. Go back to step 4, which is don't get into a power struggle. Strike with the free hands or the legs or your feet, and look for ways to either lock the person's joint and cause a submission. All right, so like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my Patreon page. So if anybody joins the Patreon page for the minimum of $5, you'll have access to this list. All right, and you'll be able to see it and view it from there and take the notes from there if you want to, you know, be able to remember what I talked about tonight. One thing I want to point out though is I made a mistake. I realized that I put 1 through 10, and I realized it's actually 1 through 9. Okay, so just be aware of that it says that I numbered it 1 to 10, but it's actually 9 steps, you know, 9 tips and advice on that. All right. But again, the combat mode mentality is very important to have, right? The combat mode mentality is very important, or the warrior spirit. You know, you can call it the warrior spirit or the combat mode mentality. It's very important to have. It could be either your victory or your defeat. In a fight, in a competition, it's either going to be your victory or your defeat. No matter what skill you have, if you do not have that heart, that spirit to fight, survive, to win, to overcome, you won't do it. If you have a timid and fearful mentality and spirit about yourself, it could cost you your life. It could cost you a victory if it's a competition. All right? So it's very important to have that combat mode mentality, that warrior spirit. Develop it. Talk to yourself. I'm telling you, these are things you can do. And hey, let's talk about that. How can we get this mentality? Number 1, by training and being confident in your training, right? Train confidently. Drill. Make sure you do drills. Do what we do in our school. We do the combat mode system. You know, we do the combat mode training. As I explained in my previous videos, combat mode is where after we practice the techniques for several times, at the end of class, we do the techniques over again, but we do it in combat mode, where we're going to attack in a more realistic manner. And you have to do the technique as best you can. There's no stopping. There's no do-overs. There's no, wait a minute, hold up, I forgot what it is. There's none of that. You just got to do, you got to act on it. If not, that's it. You're going to lose in the sparring it's like a sparring in a sense, right? But sparring is also good. Sparring and just do drills on free movement, learning how to block and strike and build up your reflexes, and that builds up your confidence, right? Once your confidence is built up through your training, then you can walk the streets without fear, because you already believe in what you do. You know you've been training. You know you're ready at a moment's notice. So that's something that can help you develop and build up your combat mode mentality, right? Overcoming the fear of, and here's another thing too, right? And this is good for young people, because you know young people are developing. If you have any students, or if you're a young person watching this, or even for yourself as an adult, maybe you didn't develop that. But teach yourself and teach young people to not get caught up in the intimidation, the mean look. Somebody looking at you real mean, right? They talking tough. Don't get caught up in that, right? Sometimes, I'm sure many of you have seen this too. You may have seen people who talk real tough, and then they get their ass kicked. You ever seen something? You ever seen that growing up, where everybody thought this one guy was the tough guy? He talks tough. He looks mean, and then he gets into a fight, and you find out he's nothing. He winds up getting his ass kicked because he was all talk. So teach yourself, and for young people who watch this video, Don't get caught up in that. Don't be intimidated because a guy looks mean. Don't get caught up because the guy's talking to, yeah, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to do this to you. You know what I'm saying? I'll do this or do that. Don't get caught up in none of that. No matter what they're saying, no matter how mean they look. Also, don't get caught up in the size either. Right? Don't get caught up because the guy looks muscular and all that. Now, don't underestimate people. I'm not telling you to underestimate people. But don't get caught up in that. Don't let that deter you from what you have to do. If somebody attacks me, if he's a muscle-bound bodybuilder, I got to deal with it, right? You got to deal with it. So don't get caught up in the muscular size, or because the guy's taller, or he's wide, or he looks mean, or he sounds tough and scary. You gotta cut all that out of your mind, and remember what I said. You gotta believe in yourself and in your art. And if somebody's approaching you, you could start strategizing. If a guy is kind of big, you say, okay, he looks like he's big. I'm gonna have to be quick and move quick and take him down fast, because you don't want him to grab you and then you locked up and you know he has more strength than you. So you say, okay, this guy's big, he got muscles. I'm gonna have to be quicker than him and make sure you take him out quick and fast, or whatever the case may be, right? So those are some ways you can develop the warrior mentality, combat mode mentality, and also talk to yourself. Right? Talk to yourself. Yeah, I'm telling you. Yes, talk to yourself about overcoming these things. Talk to yourself about being stronger, about having no fear. If you gotta go and you gotta go on walk through a bad neighborhood, or you about to be in a competition, talk to yourself. Tell yourself, I'm going to destroy whoever gets in my way. Right? If I'm about to be in a competition, I'm going to destroy you. Keep talking to them. Convince yourself that you are going to destroy whoever gets in your way. Whether it's a competition or whether you have to walk the mean streets of a certain city or town or whatever. Whoever gets in my way, I got to go to this part of town tomorrow or whatever. If anything somebody ever comes my way, I'm going through them. I'm getting home. I'm coming back home to my family. You gotta talk like that to yourself. You gotta say it, and you gotta convince yourself. That's right. Talk to your own self and convince yourself that I'm getting back home tonight or tomorrow or whatever it is. I'm making my way back home. I'm getting back home to see my wife, my kids, or whoever, my loved one, whoever your loved one is. Talk to yourself. That works. You see? So these are just some steps on how you can develop it. If you don't already have it, how you can develop the warrior mentality, the warrior spirit, the combat mode mentality. Okay? So it's very important that, yes, you do practice your skills, you do train hard, you know what I mean? You make sure that you spar, you do drills, you do, like we said, our combat mode, right? And then you also talk to yourself. Develop the combat mode. If you haven't developed it, develop it. Talk to yourself. Convince yourself. Talk to yourself and convince yourself that you are that warrior, that you are willing to go through whoever gets in your way in order for you to survive, and in order for you to get back home, in order for you to live. All right? So appreciate all of those who tuned in to check out this stream tonight. Like I said, one more time, we'd appreciate your support. And if you appreciate the lessons that we give here, and you do want to support the Shinobi Science School of Self-Defense, support me, Sensei Lewis, you can go right here to my Patreon page. Let me show that for the people on Instagram. There it is one more time. That's what it looks like. Like I said, just go for those on Instagram, just go to my profile, and I have links to these posts here. On YouTube, just go to the description of the video, and you'll see the links right there. You can support Sensei Lewis here on Patreon. Right now, we don't have, as you can see, we don't have any patrons right now. But if you want to support, that's the way you can do it. If not, you could in the links we have PayPal. I've had somebody send me a PayPal donation. You can do that if you just want to, if you appreciate the lessons, right? If you appreciate the lessons, you appreciate what we do, you can go just send a one-time donation on PayPal. You could support us through like I said, our store, our online, the online lessons. Become a subscriber, $19.99 a month. You get access to the videos, right there. The Shinobi Sign Store. Buy a mug, only $11. Get a T-shirt. We got various prices. Get the hoodie, whatever. You know what I'm saying? These are ways you can support the Shinobi Science School, support Sensei Lewis. You know what I'm saying? But in any case, I appreciate you guys for for tuning in and checking out the show. No matter what you do, appreciate that. Appreciate my students that we have. By the way, for those on Instagram, that's the thumbnail for the video right here, right? Just appreciate. I appreciate all you guys. Those of you who've been following me for all these years. We've been on YouTube for a number of years. Those of you who have followed us for all these years. Appreciate my students who train with me in person. Appreciate the people who buy our DVDs. Matter of fact, I forgot about that too. We also sell our DVDs on Amazon. So if you're interested in getting the DVDs on Amazon, you can do that as well. Again, the links are in the description of the video on YouTube. For those on Instagram, I'm always posting and promoting some of our videos. Just follow, like I said, just go to Amazon.com and in the search bar, just put in, you can either put in Combat Mode Productions, right? Combat Mode Productions, and that'll take you to the page where it'll show all the videos right there. Or if you're looking for a particular title of one of our DVDs, just put in the title of that DVD, and it'll take you to the title of the DVD also. All right. So once again, appreciate all you guys for tuning in and checking us out. Again, the students who train with me in person and those who are students from YouTube and online, appreciate you too. All right. So we'll end it on that. You guys have a good night. Take care. Oh, I'm sorry. For Antonio, you saying? Wait, am I still? The stream stopped already.